Okay, good morning, everybody. I think. Wait, did I hide stuff? I think I did. Let's find out. Yeah, okay. Let's push the button. There we go. So, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, February 6th, 2017. Super early on a rainy day, and we're doing stuff. You can kind of ignore what I'm doing on the screen right now. Was trying to test something for someone else for the blob shadows. Still trying to get those stupid things working properly. But I have a feeling it's just simply not going to work to the degree we wanted it to work. But yeah, basically just ignore what I'm doing for now. And hopefully everyone had a good weekend. Hello, Harry, and everyone else who may be popping out and about. Let's see, I'm just testing something right now in the attempt to try to help somebody. But I just have a feeling that there's just no way I'm going to be able to do this. Where'd the blob go? Didn't I type the... Oh, I typed Matt. Blob. Okay, now see, that worked. That's a basic little blob shadow there, actually. It's not horrible. Let's see, where is my lighting cast shadow? There we go. Apparently I'm not... Oh, that's my character, so we just want a player start then. Oops. Okay, well, let's see, where's my third person? Third person. There we go. Okay, seriously. I'm just trying to shut off the stupid lighting. Where'd the lighting go? I know you're here somewhere. Cast shadow, there we go. I mean, that's not horrible for a blob. That's not bad. I mean, that could be a ton worse. But that's not bad. It's... Oh, seriously, how do I still have the shadow turned on? Oh, because I'm using the third person character, not my blob shadow character. But my blob shadow character. Whoa, this is kind of cool. Anyways, let's disable it while we're in here then, because this is not cooperating. There, let's see, details, cast shadow. There we go. Okay, so that's kind of cool. It could be a lot worse in terms of how it works. Seriously. Let's see, how does it work when we have it on something like this? Yeah, see? I mean, seriously, that could be a lot worse. And if we change this to a sphere instead of cube, I bet you it might work even a little bit better. Let's see. Let's try something like that. Like I said, everyone can just ignore me what I'm doing right now. I'm testing something. See? That's not bad. By any means. Okay. Let's see. So, let me go read over what people are saying before I start working on my stuff. And good morning again to everybody. I just wanted to test something for somebody. You know what? Let's actually save that map. So I can come back to it easier. Okay, so let's see what we have this morning. Nick. Sorry. Nick is making over-shoulder shooting. I'm conflicting with how to place the aim indicator. Would this be a good place to ask? Well, everywhere's a good place to ask. So that's not a problem. Let's see. Over-the-shoulder aiming. You're dealing with the problem of visualizing the aim from a perspective different from the gun. I think it can be solved with some math shenanigans. But I just did a line trace from the muzzle of the gun, projected the hit location in a screen position, displayed the crosshair there. You can also do some fancy shenanigans like skewing the crosshair depending on the import. Yeah, there's lots of different ways of doing it. Somewhere on the interwebs, let's see, YouTube, not YouTube, my GitHub, here we go. On my GitHub, I have a bunch of projects. One of them is the Game Jam, where I did a behind-the-shoulder third person with a crosshair in the world. And I just basically had like a decal texture mask that I would move based on where I was aiming to give him like an aim assist. I want to say it was in November 2015. But yeah, the cleaning service. Yeah, so this one has an in-game cursor. If you want to use this one, it's kind of like an example. But there's no, like Harry was bringing up, there's no right answer. Every game's different. You could have it project forward from where the character's at. One of the things I've noticed, and you'll have to play around with it, but a lot of people, if you have a cursor, a crosshair basically, a lot of people will forgive the little bit of disjointedness. Like if the crosshair is in front of your player, but your camera's over the shoulder and your gun's not exactly 100% lined up type thing. Most of the time, they're not really paying attention to the exact aim of the gun. They're aiming at the crosshair. Because keep in mind, they're using the crosshair to aim and not the gun to aim. So there's a little bit of forgiveness there. It's more of a figuring out what works well and giving the player something that they can use. And I will say that having a crosshair is way better than not. People get mad when there's no crosshair. I learned that one out. Yep, Harry's example of what he did works very well. Line trace from the muzzle of the gun, projected the hit location to the screen position, and displayed the crosshair. That's a lot like what I did. I went from the center of the character forward because I wanted it because I didn't have a gun. So that would be why it worked for me. It was basically just an activation switch. You play with it, honestly. That's what it is. But as long as there is an aim indicator, people will be happy. And they will get used to any slight offset, believe it or not. That's one thing I did notice. Okay, so besides... Oh, and I know someone asked a question. I just missed it. Where'd it go? For Stefan, why don't you put a light over the character? The goal for doing the blob shadows was to improve performance. With the light over the character, you're going to have a shadow, which is still the same point. You're still going to have a shadow. And the shadows are computationally expensive on mobile devices. So the point of the blob shadow is to have something that approximates a shadow, but isn't really a shadow. So that way it's better performance on mobiles. So if we did a light above the character, unfortunately, we're still going to have the same issue. And yeah, with the solution, the crosshair moves relative to the screen. And of course, you can also adjust it. You can, when we're in our first-person character, for example, our crosshair is always pretty much going to be relative to the center of the screen unless you play with it. When you have it relative to behind the character, it's going to be whatever feels good for you. And that's what's nice about it. You can adjust it however you want. You can have it lag behind for a little bit of delay. You could have it snap. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. With doing the third person, especially on like the console, a lot of the time you'll get that little bit of snap when you're near something to give you that little bit of help. So that's something that third person crosshairs give you. For a flashlight material, for the most part, it depends on what you're asking about. If you're just asking about a round lit up material, that you can just use a light for that. It's probably the easiest thing to do. I mean, literally just take the stupid spotlight. There we go. Just grab a spotlight and put it in front of your character and adjust its parameters and set it up properly in front of your character and just use that as a flashlight. If that's not what you're trying to do, then you're looking at probably putting like a decal of a light and stuff like that on the surface. I mean, depends on what you mean by a flashlight, basically. The easiest way is just give yourself a directional light and adjust its parameters to be something a little more... Oops, where's the stupid outer cone angle? There we go. Something a little more appropriate for a flashlight like that. But I mean, okay, so I don't know what you intend on using the flashlight what do you mean by a flashlight texture, let alone what you're using it for. If you're looking to just make a flashlight, I mean, there you go. If you're looking for, okay, apparently a flashlight texture, I mean, it's something that looks like a flashlight, then it's just I don't do art, so I couldn't really answer that one, unfortunately. It's just a bunch of concentric rings for the most part, depending on the flashlight, texture you're looking for. And then you just slap that texture on a material and put the material on the location you're going to, probably. Lights can use these ones as far as I know too, right? Let's see. Let's undo this a little bit. Where'd my light go? Oh, of course I can't undo my light. I mean, we can have an IES texture, so that seems like that's what you would do, to be honest. Something like that. I mean, there's an IES texture for a flashlight right there. Technically, that's kind of what you're looking for. Unless I'm mistaken. Again, I don't know exactly what your intention of this is. So I can't really give you an answer for what you're looking for. But, I mean, that looks like a flashlight to me. Hell, we could probably just attach it to our character out of boredom. Let's see, where is our third-person character? Okay, the spotlight. Spotlight, right? Yeah, spotlight. Slap that on our mesh like that. I mean, there's a flashlight. I mean, that's about as flashlighty as you can get, to be honest. Obviously, you'd want to adjust it to be smarter than what I'm doing here, but it is a flashlight. Obviously, it doesn't face the camera. It's facing the player in the front. Let's see, Stefan. Project I'm about to work on. I technically have something I closed down, apparently. Well, that was silly. Hold on, let me open it back up. It's not cooperating. There we go. I have this to get done over the next week. I have all of these things that are not bolded, I need to make examples of, or need to pull up examples I can show people. That's what I'm working on for this week. Unless, of course, people have questions and stuff like that. And hello, Lex from YouTube. Hope everyone's doing good today. Glitch's question, how to make something for collide with the spotlight? I don't. Honestly, Glitch, you have asked this before. I wish I knew. Unfortunately, that requires artistic stuff. Beyond using something like a capsule collider and having it in there, I don't know how to do the difference between stuff that's lit and not lit. I don't have that information. I do wish I knew. I just don't. Unfortunately, light and flashlights and stuff, other people have solved that problems. I don't know how to do it. Not for the collision part. I mean, if I had to try, it would be something as simple as, you slapping a cylinder or something somewhere for my collision and just testing collision based on what hits this at whatever surface it's going to be at. Which, I mean, it seems kind of silly, but if you're trying to see what the flashlight shows, you could just have that projected wherever it is and see what collides with it. 415 more stuff exposed in blueprints. I don't know. I don't know what... Well, here's basically the big changes in 415 that I can see here. So we have like maps and sets. Those are two big 415 things that are exposed. There's a bunch of animation changes. We have the background blur widget that was added, so I guess that one's exposed. We still don't have input mapping, and we don't have any new AI stuff as far as I can tell. But there's a bunch of smaller changes to the system. Maps and sets would be the biggest ones exposed. And let's see, for glitch in regards to AI, I'm working on AI, but it won't be for another couple weeks. I can add it to my list, but I can't play a game just to try to recreate the AI. I can I'm doing AI videos regarding basic knowledge of AI, but to create something specific, you'll have to take those tools and put them together. So let's see what we can work on today. I need something in terms of an example. I know I need to do gameplay tags and tasks, but those are a big one, and I really don't want to start doing those because those are annoying. Content hot reloading I could do. You make a tutorial how to make a screenshot tool in-game, for example, the NVIDIA Ansel. Do you mean using NVIDIA Ansel or taking a screenshot in-game? Because NVIDIA Ansel is built into the engine now and the plugins. It's right here. So once you enable this and you run it, then you have the ability to open up the Ansel system in-game just by using some commands. I can try to look into making a tutorial on how to use it, but that would be something that would be done later. And if that's what you want, I can add that to my list. That's actually probably something I should add anyways, how to use the Ansel plugin. So I'll add that anyways. But if you mean a generic one, well, if you have it, when you use the Ansel plugin, basically when you trigger it, it pulls it up, and then the player uses the built-in Ansel. It's a part of the driver. It's kind of like when you know how like you're using Steam and you hit Shift Tab and the overlay pops up. It's the same thing. You just call the Ansel system and it pulls up the overlay for using it in game. In terms of actually taking a screenshot, I have no idea how to take just a generic screenshot in engine. I don't think you can while the game's running. That would be something that would have to be coded in separately. I don't have the ability on that one. Stefan, regarding the burning grass, it's in here. I have honestly no idea. Stuff like that where I have to do research, I don't have a lot of time to do research, and February is pretty much GDC preparation, so there's a lot of time spent on that one. I would love to be able to work on the fire propagation system, but I just don't have the time right now. I literally cannot tell you when it would be. Yeah, Quat, not a problem. I'll put that on my list here. I'll see if I can get into it. February is just a difficult month. I have all these videos and things I need to cover within the next week and a half, basically. And then after that, it's GDC preparation, which technically I'm doing now. And then come March, hopefully I can go back to starting hitting other stuff. That is definitely my plan. Let's do these material. Let's see if we can get these material nodes done. These shouldn't be too hard. Let me find them. I'd love to work on more. I just don't have the time right now to do it. It's unfortunate. Okay, so we have, what do we have? We have material, previous frame switch. So, material previous, IOUS frame switch. Okay, and then what was the other one called? Pre-skinned local position. And I do have time to try to help people out with other smaller things I can help with, things that might work in terms of stuff I'm doing now. I don't want to make it seem like I don't have time to do anything for people right now. I do, and I'm more than happy to help out with stuff like that. Some things I just don't have the time for, like for example, recreated an AI for another game, the grass propagation system. Ansel, I might be able to sneak in here Wednesday when I stream, if I look at it and see how difficult it is just to mock up a quick example. But besides that, smaller stuff. Let's see. Custom fonts for text renderer. You just trying to figure out how to make a custom font? Is that the question? because technically I have to do fonts for the new system anyways. They're splitting fonts in 4.15. But if you're asking how to make a custom font, it's not difficult. You just do user interface font. So like, for example, I call this one test font, and then you just set up the basics of it. So add the font. In here, you can grab a TTF file. Let's see, Windows, what's it, System32 fonts, I think it is. No, of course not. Where the hell do they hide the fonts at? In Windows. System? Boom, 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 boom. Nope. Huh, where do they hide the fonts in Windows now? Okay, well, that's not really much an issue. Here, I'll grab a font from DaFont, because that'll make it easy. Just grab one for use. Here, we'll grab this one. This one looks kind of cool. Let me see if I can figure out how to download it. And we'll grab this into our downloads folder. Okay, so where is my font? There we go. So we have a font. And what I'm going to do is I can go ahead and grab this font and drop it into here. And it's not going to work. So let me try renaming this. Give me a second. It might be too big. Let's try. Okay. Let's where did Unreal Engine go? There we go. So let's see about doing it this way. Come on. Hopefully it won't give me an error this time. There we go. So would you like to create a new font? Yes, and it creates a new font asset. So in here I have this one. This is our Painter font. So all I did there was just simply drag and drop a TrueType font into the engine, and it created a new font. And then if you're talking about in terms of, I can open up chat again. Using it anywhere, if wherever you're at, so let's say you're inside of, let's find a, you know, I can just open up a new Blueprint class. You know, like you're talking about a text renderer. If we have a text renderer, then we should be able to set our font here. And I can use the new font right here, test font. And it should be able to work properly. Now, assuming we've set it up properly. Oh, edges is really bad. They curvy. It's possible that your input size is bad for your default, or it's a bad font. Not all fonts have good kerning and things like that. Yeah. And I don't even think I imported this font properly either. Here, let's go with like a default size of 32 down here. So, I mean, like, we have this right here. When you're in your preview for your font, I mean, does it look bad, or what's it look like? Or is it just when you're actually inside the using your font that it looks bad? Because it might be your source font. That's about the only thing I can think of would be an issue there. And yeah, I'd have to do the stupid material for this as well. But I think the biggest question here is it looks bad in the text renderer. Well, shoot, that's a possibility that's going to look bad in the text renderer because of the where's my normal Roboto? Like, here's this one. Text renderers don't have smoothing is the biggest issue. I mean, if you can see this right here. If you're talking about this stuff right here, that's just because you don't have any sort of anti-aliasing on the font as a text renderer. You're going to have to probably use a UMG widget. Yeah, that's just the way the fonts are in the world, unfortunately. I don't think you have the ability to fix that. I mean, technically it might be in... I mean, technically it's part of the material. I mean, maybe if you had some way of smoothing it in the material, you could do it. But the font material, the font parameters, the text renderer, it's not meant to really be used for... It's not really meant to be used for much, to be honest. Have you tried using it inside of the UMG widget? Because keep in mind, you can put UMG widgets inside the world. And you'll notice that the text is a lot better inside of our UMG widgets as compared. And we can even grab like that new font, and you can see that it works perfectly fine. Yeah, it's the way the text render is meant to be. You have anti-aliasing as part of this system right here. You'll notice it's intended to have the smoothness on the font. It's designed to work better. The text render in here, because it uses the material, because you have this thing right here without any sort of anti-aliasing on it, it's not going to look well, honestly. You're not going to get any better result out of a text renderer. There's no... Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It's possible for you to get a better result out of the text renderer if you were to go into that font material and then mess with the font material, which I wouldn't recommend doing. It's just a giant pain in the ass. So like in here, we have our default opaque material here. You could always go in and you can... mess with some of the output settings. I don't know how much they would help. Because I know what I'd recommend doing. It's just, I'm not an artist, so I don't have the way of doing that. You could basically take this font and then redo it. Yeah, it's not really wasting time. It's a very good question, actually. Are you sure you need a text renderer? There's no way you could just do a 3D widget with a UMG or something like that? I mean, I understand. Maybe you do need a text renderer. I guess it's always possible. But that's a good question. How you could make this smoother if you're using a text renderer? Because it is part of the font parameter here. I'm gonna look into that as something separate. I appreciate the question, because I want to look into that. Because you could I've seen something like this before. Basically, you could just render that font parameter multiple times in multiple positions and then resize it so it ends up being smoother, basically. But material-wise, I don't know the proper nodes. It's something I've seen somewhere. It's something I've never done. Someone did ask a question about ArcViz 3D CAD. Is a dual Xeon E5 good, or Unreal Engine works better with an i7? A Xeon E5, for the most part, is going to be the same thing as an i7. The i7 is just going to be faster. Your Xeon E5 is going to be your multiple cores and your multiple threads. ArcViz, visualization in 3D CAD, are going to require things like your light building and things like that. So the hyper-threading definitely helps on that one, and the more cores. This is for someone who's asking the question. In regards to which one's better, it just depends on what you're doing. Your Xeon, your E5, is going to have more cores, but lower speed. So if you're doing a lot of light mass, it will probably be better. But you could also technically get an i7 with up to 10 cores now, which is silly, but you could technically do that. Like I'm running a 6-core right now. And stuff that doesn't use the stuff that doesn't use the multiple cores. So your general Unreal Engine work. So for example, this is what I'm doing now. And as you can see, I'm barely using anything. And I've got 6 cores, 12 processors running at 4.4 when it's full speed. Lightmass uses all of this. Cooking will use all of this. Importing, for the most part, when it's compiling the shaders, would use all of this. But everything else will just sit here idle for the most part when I'm in the actual editor itself. So that's something to keep in mind. How much time are you going to be bringing in assets and baking things compared to actually, you know, sitting here in the editor, opening up blueprints and stuff like that? That should determine if the i7 or the E5 would be better. That's basically going to be your biggest difference. Your extra cores from your E5 are going to be taken advantage of in your building, compiling, lightmass, shader workers, and things like that. So there's no right answer. Pick whichever one fits whatever you're doing. I personally use this computer for gaming as well as primarily blueprint work. So I didn't go for something I didn't go for an E5 or a Xeon setup. I thought about that, something like a 10-core, 12-core, something like that. But I don't do a lot of graphics work. Because I don't do a lot of graphics work, I don't need the extra cores and threads. And let's see. So Switch brings up... yeah, that's... I mean, there's no reason you can't use UMG for that. I see the point of that, but I mean, that's just, you have, like, for example, here's my actor right here. We add a widget like this, and then, yeah, let's see, let's get rid of this. Let's put text right there. We'll just simply call it text block, for example. Here's my widget. What did we call that one? UMG test. So where's my widget? UMG test, like that, in our viewport. So that is that text, and then our widget is, see, it's gonna be backwards, isn't it? Where's it at? There we go. So you have, and that comes out like crap because I have it resized. I have it blown up to the wrong size at this point. It's blowing it up. So we need, yeah, it's because I don't have, let's see, there's a proper way of doing this, and of course my brain fails miserably at this one all the time. So let's see, let's try 48, and of course, let's see, draw desired size. Let's go with like 200 by 200. That should do it, right? Of course not. Playing with these things are always trouble for me, because I always forget the exact settings on these things. Obviously, as you can tell here. Okay, screens. I think screen space is what I end up wanting, right? Or world size. I always forget these things. Well, that's a bit big, isn't it? Of course. Ah. Yeah, there's a proper way of doing this, of course. My brain's not functioning properly today. It's probably because of the fact I have this as in here instead of like an overlay. So it's just for simply for display purposes is what you're saying. Well, I mean, because technically you can, it's the same thing in here. If I could friggin' get my stupid thing working properly here. Because you have the ability to expose everything. Let's see, set text. I see what you're saying though. I just, this is, keep in mind this is a possibility. It's not, it means probably a little bit more work than what you want to do. But you do have the text variable there, so in theory, on our widget, we have the ability to set the new text on this widget. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I see what you're saying. I am curious on that one. I definitely am curious about looking into what you're talking about. The making the text, the font renderer look smoother. But it's going to have to be in the material itself, which is obviously an issue. Make your widget like that. There we go. Of course I screwed up everything here, but why not? I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Switch. Hopefully you get that worked out. If you do, if you manage to if you manage to make the text renderer smoother, if you manage to figure that out, feel free to share it with us. I definitely want to figure it out myself. That I'd always thought you could just use UMG, but you have a good point. If you're just using it for displaying something in the scene, and you have like your issue here, 300 different instances, then doing it in UMG would definitely take more time, and that's a lot of them. But that is a very good question. I want to look into that. I'm curious about that, on how to make it better. And it's probably, again, it's going to be in the material setup. Hopefully it won't be too hard to figure out. Okay, so we have the previous frame switch. Here we go. So this one, in theory, according to the setup that we saw, it basically allows you to make something look like it is, let's see, let's grab a cube, let's see. Oh, that's a box. That's not what I wanted. I wanted a cube. But it allows you to basically grab information from the previous frame. That's how it's supposed to work. But I don't think I have it set up right. And this is one of those things of figuring out things, because I have no effing clue. This is a material that has something where you're supposed to do something, and my brain's like, I don't know how materials work, so I'm just simply not going to do it. But I still have to do it. So yeah, for anyone who's watching, I'm just working through some stuff for 4.15. Feel free to ask any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to, if there's anything I can try to help with, feel free to ask. I will do my best. In the meantime, I'm just literally going through a list of things right now and trying to make examples so I can show people how to use them. And right now, it's just a simple case of trying to get that stuff set up. And right now, it's the previous frame switch is what I'm attempting to do right now. Glitch, a fur material. I could not, unfortunately. It is artistic, and as you can see right here, with my artistic ability, if it doesn't consist of colors, I basically can't do it. Good morning, Sterling. How is everyone doing? Yep. So this should be fine. We should be getting our result here for the world position offset. but we need to turn on certain settings in the project. Okay, so we need velocity. Let's see, we need velocity and G buffer in the project settings. So, oh look, that's helpful. Anyone else notice that it's not in here? Well, isn't that nice? Isn't it nice when they tell you something needs to be turned on and it's not actually there? Because the exact wording from the notes are velocity in G buffer enabling in the project settings. These are project settings. I type in the word velocity and we get nothing. We type in G buffer and we get 2 of them. Selectively output G buffer targets and the G buffer format, which does not show velocity. So that's nice of them. Let's see if G buffer shows up in here. G buffer hidden. Nope. Okay, so that's awesome. The other option is accurate velocities from vertex deformation. Definitely not in that one. Accurate velocities from vertex deformation. Okay, so those are in there, so we're good there. So that at least is something that's proper. I love the way this stuff works. Gotta love release notes. So yeah, normal, unfortunately unfun, boring, work-related stuff today. I'd love to show more fun stuff, but to be honest, I already covered the fun stuff. We had the maps and sets, and we had the sequencer animation and the blur. After this, it's boring stuff like GPS nodes on mobile, improved font assets, post snapshotting. That one might be fun if I can set that one up properly. Fast nodes for materials. Seriously, we have a tangent and then fast tangent. I mean, honestly, how much fun can that be to show? Raw input plugin. I can push up on my joystick and you can see the number 1. I don't really think that's a lot of fun. Mobile rendering preview in the viewport. Maybe. Content hot reloading. I mean, that would be fun, but well, that wouldn't even be really fun. That would be, oh look, I made a change to my project and now you can see it's changed. Faster C++ compile times. Who really wants to watch me compile 24 minutes of the engine? I don't think that would be much fun. Let's see. Someone asked, do you know some site where we can compete with our projects? I don't know. Some place to earn cash. I know that there are game jams from time to time that do have monetary rewards, but I definitely know Epix doesn't offer monetary rewards. It's just things like recognition and sometimes some prizes like Houdini licenses. Other than that, I don't know any specific place where you can compete to earn cash. Definitely not for projects and things like that. That does sound like an interesting proposal, but I mean, well, I should kind of rephrase that one. I know from time to time certain companies will run things like that for cash, but it's more specific. Like Microsoft will run them for the best game on their new Windows platform, or there's an ad one that will be best for ad. Tizen was running one for best on Tizen and stuff like that. Yeah, so, okay, so this doesn't look like it's doing a darn thing, right? Well, I'm going to call this one a fail on the previous frame switch node, simply because of the fact that one of the options they tell me needs to be enabled doesn't seem to work. It literally says velocity and G... maybe they meant in here, in the actual material setup. No, there's nothing regarding G buffers in the material setups. And the material supports accurate velocities from vertex deformation. So we're good there. Okay, well, this one's not going to work, unfortunately. So we're going to have to skip that one for now. Let me update my note. If I can figure out where I put it. Let's see. Does not work right now. Okay. Yeah, G buffer is depth buffer, but I mean maybe they named it. Oh, that's called FEP also. Oh, for the love of Pete. The actual wordage from the notes itself is literally velocity and G buffer enabled, and we have nothing in here for velocity. And when we look through our project settings, we had nothing in regards to velocity. I'm looking for depth now. Yeah, see, so I mean our limitation of velocity is nothing inside of our editor preferences. And our project settings say for velocity we have these ones, which these is definitely not it. Accurate velocities from vertex deformation. We already turned that one on. That was what we just did. And that's it. There is nothing regarding the buffer and velocity. So my guess is that's not turned on unless... I guess it can't hurt to try this. I hate trying to fix stuff like this. Let's see, base engine. Let's see, what do we have? Let me maximize this. We have keybind, we have keybinds, we have enumerations, parameters. Okay, can we get rid of, oh my gosh, how many redirects are there in this thing? Okay, let's go to here. Yep, there is nothing regarding velocity in the actual engine itself. Yeah, so I'm thinking this is a setting that's not set up right now, that's not exposed to people. Keep in mind, these are just the test notes, so stuff like this doesn't always come in, unfortunately. Well, what I want to accomplish is literally just using one of the new features in 4.15 called the previous frame switch node, which is this one. And the notes say that it needs accurate velocities from vertex deformation turned on, which we did, and velocity in G buffer enabling, which we cannot find. So that's all it was. Madman, okay, go ahead, have fun with school. Everything will be everything goes up on YouTube later, so I appreciate everyone, you know, feel free to watch that later if you want. Yeah, I can't do these materials right now. I really wish I could. I'm gonna have to skip those for now. This is turning into a really boring day today. I'd love to do more stuff. Wandered, yeah, you did bring up a good point. Work on making a small game instead of fun projects. I do plan on working on that. I actually do want to. I will be making more smaller projects, which is what I normally do. And the problem is this month is GDC and 4.15 release, so it's basically a boring month. It's just a lot of work rather than fun work. It's a lot of preparation and documentation, unfortunately. Let's see. Igor Lima. How would you go about making an emissive blinky material, like a police siren? Can't see how to do that kind of material. So an emissive blinky material, that shouldn't be too hard. Let me open my playground so I make sure I do this in the correct spot. You should be able to do something like a sine wave or a simple time-driven lerp, for example. Now, by blinking, do you mean it goes on, off, or just something that pulses? My guess is, you know, on to off, pulsing. My guess would be a sine wave is what we're looking for. That's a new material. We'll just call it material siren. So, I mean, this is my rough guess here. Let's go with, let's see, we're going to probably drive with a sine. Probably drive the sine with the time node. And let's change this to red. Like that. So this is going to be our emissive color right here. How much of that is driven based on this information right here? So we'll multiply this. So more than likely, this will give us our result when I lock this down to a second. Let's see what we get. There we go. So something like that, if this is what we're looking for. Whoops. Let's drag this to 2 seconds. There we go. Now it's not as quick. Even though it doesn't really matter because the sine node technically is a 0 to 1. Blue to red. Should be able to with a lerp in theory. This is where my artistic skills start to fail. Yeah, so if this is what you're looking for basically here, Igor, you have your material editor and our output's going to be emissive, so we're good there. We have our vector 3, which is just a standard constant 3 is what it is right here. It's just, you know, usually use it for colors, so we're making it red. But the time period, the time node, and the sine node, basically this counts from 0 to 2 is what I'm doing right here. And the sine node is basically a 0, +1, 0, -1, 0. So your sine node is going to go back and forth between basically -1 and 1, like Haxo's bringing up. And we take that color, so it's basically we're driving it as a color here. White to black is what it is, as you can see here. We put that into our multiply against our color, and we're basically saying, okay, over this time, give us this color, you know, these two things combined, multiplication. These, if I can put them next to each other. Multiplying white against any color is going to give you that color. Multiplying black against any color is going to give you black. So this allows us to basically alternate between a color and black, which is what we can see here. A lerp is what we'd want for here. So if we just simply did a lerp, and we drew between this, and we put our sine into here, and we put this out, I think we can get our red to, yeah. The problem is we're going to end up with our purple, because we're driving our lerp simply between, we're going between these two colors. So we'd probably want to do an if instead. Let's see, if we did an if, again, I am not a, this is me not being an artist here, people. This is me trying to do math basically in materials. So we'll drive this into our, okay. Okay. We compare A to B right here. Okay, so this is what we want. We want in terms of our comparison here. So if A is greater than B, we want red. If it's less than, we want blue. Okay, let's see what that one does. What do you mean? Do I need an equals? Do I really need an equals? Are you going to complain because I don't have an equals? Oh, no, it needs to be a float. That's right. Let's see. This one is... Oh, we didn't... No, we need the sign. Let's see. Let's mask just the red. Like this. I think this is it. Nope. Of course, it's going to complain. Let's see. Input A needs to be a float. Seriously? Oh, yeah, A. Oh, okay. Yeah, constant. Oh my gosh. Harry brings up a good point. I could have just used the lerp and run the alpha through ceiling, so that way it's basically either red or blue. But if nodes are more fun if you can remember how to do them. Here, hold on a second. Yep. Just, you're going to complain about A. Yeah, okay. So this is good. This should output our number between 0 and 1, which is what we want. Well, technically negative. And then I want to say it's... Oh, no. We're going to drive that one, and then we'll do this one, 0.5. Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said materials are not my best strong suit. There we go. So that'll alternate between our red and our blue. Not right. We probably want this more to be a 0. So that way the negative one and the positive ones are better. Okay. So there you go. So you could see using an if statement to cycle it between red and blue right here. We're basically saying our sign's going to drive it between the negative and the positive, -1 and +1. And if it's greater than 0, we're going to output our red, and if it's less than, we're going to output our blue. So this is another way to get an alternating one using a sign. The other method that Harry brought up would be running the alpha through a ceiling. If I can get this friggin' I literally don't remember which nodes we were just using. How the hell did I forget which nodes we were just using? Wow, that's pretty impressive, to be honest. And let's apply this so it stops. Okay, so we had a multiply. Oh, my brain is non-functional today. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. No, we didn't need the multiply if we're doing the lerp, right? Yeah, okay. I think I remember what we were doing. So our problem with this one was we end up with the purple, right? Yeah. So Harry's idea. Yeah. Oh no, you're way ahead of me on this one, Harry. My brain is not functioning today. So he was thinking we seal the alpha output. There we go. So that would give you an alternate as well. So that's a way to use the sign to do the same thing. So technically, these two things are the same result, just two different ways of doing it. There are a stupid amount of material nodes in here. I've only ever played with probably 50 of them. So I am completely inept when it comes to materials and the proper use of them. Let's see. For your material to work, shouldn't you animate the vertices? Materials to animate vertices use world precision offset can now output accurate motion vectors. If you're talking about... Well, hopefully that helped out everyone who was asking about that siren material. I'm assuming you're talking about the frame switch node right here, Wander. James was asking a question, of course. He asked it after I closed it down. Sorry I missed it. Why use the sign if it just flips between the two? Our sign is... Well, I mean, technically, when we're flipping between the two, we didn't need it, I guess. We could just drive it off the time node. I guess that... Okay, so you know what? He brings up another point. I only use the sign just because it gives me the ability to give me that output. But technically, if we were using... Because we need to do that with the lerp. Well, no, I guess technically... Well, I mean, if we did... Let's see. If we drove just... Now, the problem is this is only going to give us one color if we do that. So the sign would have to be... Yeah, see, so let's undo this. I'm assuming you're asking about the sign... No, see? You asked about the sign node up here, I'm assuming? Then? Because, I guess technically we could probably drive just the time into our A without the sign node with a period of 1. And then told this over half a second. I mean, we could do something like this. This should give us the same result, but much quicker. Yeah, because we could do something like that one. Yeah. So yeah, there's multiple. Yeah, there's no time. Time technically is an ever increasing node, except if you set it to period, and then it just wraps it. So I've set it to wrap, so it'll go between 0 and 1 is the way I designed it here. So the nice thing is you can always change this to like 2, change this to 1, And now we have a siren that alternates over 2 seconds with 1 second for each period, or each color, if we do it like this. So, I mean, yeah, you could do that without the sign note, if we do it in the if. So again, it's just different methods of getting the same result depending on what we want. Do we want the ability to change the amount of time it flashes? Do we want it to be driven, you know, do we want our negative and positive numbers with our granularity? Same result, different ways of doing it. Yeah. But the sign node can't be driven naturally. That's the biggest thing, as far as I know. I believe you have to have an input for a sign node, unless I'm crazy. Yeah, you have to have some form of input for the sign node to be driven. What point in that sign node, the sine wave, do you want the value out? So you have to put a time node into the sine at least to get our 0 to 1, or technically negative 1 to 1 fluctuation. So that's why we choose in terms of the time over here at least. I think if you do, technically if you do, yeah, nothing like this, it'll continue working. I just don't like the idea of something that will infinitely progress, so I always put a period in here. But that's just a personal preference. Yeah, there's lots of different ways of getting the same result. We sealed this one, for example, with the sine lerp, and this one used the if and used just a straight time period. Hopefully that, I get from the looks of it, we helped out Igor in terms of what he wanted, so we went on a wild tangent, which was highly amusing, making a siren material. Okay, let's go back into here. Yeah, I think this one's just broken for now. Again, we're working with 4.15, and I just don't think this is implemented properly yet. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. The actual editor setting that they mention is simply, looks like it's simply missing, which is fine. It happens. At this point, I think I have to do gameplay tags. I don't think there's anything else I could show that's at least usable on stream. There's like nothing else fun in 4.15 on stream. So, I mean, we could work on the tags, I guess. Now, how can we make use of the tag? Okay, so for our tags, they're going to be, I'm pretty sure it's in the properties section. Yeah, here we go. So we have our gameplay tag section, and we can add new ones inside of here. We can bring them in from our config file, which I don't have, so I'm not really worried about that one. Here's our table list and our redirectors. If you're talking about Wander, this one right here, I literally have no idea how. Okay, so here, if we have, this is what we're doing right here. Let me find the stupid Unreal Engine page. Community forums. Let's see, announcements. 4.15 preview. So here's the 4.15 preview right here. And right here, previous frame switch, right here is what's been shown. And if you go to the previous frame switch on the website somewhere, I can't remember the exact page, where was it at? Of course, now I have to find everything again. Let's see. Of course, and this, I hate how stuff doesn't work when I have ad blocker turned on. You can't use the official Epic documentation website if you have ad blocker turned on, which is horribly annoying. Yeah, so there's a picture of it somewhere, and I can't find it, of course. I always mention it, but of course I can't find it. Crud, I don't remember where it's at. But anyways, there's an example for the previous frame switch. I can't find it anymore. But it requires two things to be turned on in order to work properly, and I can't find one of those options. That's the issue I'm running into. That's it. I think I need to leave this alone for now. It's wasted a huge amount of time. Let's not worry about that one. Let's see, Wander. If you want to do something fun, make a fake dynamic lighting material for mobile devices. So kind of like emissive lighting material for mobile devices. Because if so, it's artistic, and I wish I knew how to do that. The Nick, can you show an FPS lock? What do you mean by an FPS lock? By default, the engine comes with basically a locked FPS as it is right now. If we type in, you can see I'm locked at 120 frames per second. In terms of locking at 120 based on performance, that's completely different. That's an optimization thing that is way beyond what I can do. Like literally, that is something completely different. But if you mean an FPS cap, that's that. Technically, in the project settings, where's it at? Let's see. Smooth. Here we go. You do have the ability to have auto smoothed frame rate, which they can do. Yeah, you for the Nick. I understand. I don't understand. I don't know what you mean by lock. Define what you mean by lock. I can set a cap. I can say 30 frames per second max and 60 frames per second max. That's not an issue. But if you mean I always want to run at 60 frames per second, even if I have 1,000 things on the screen at a time, that's different. Let's go back to our tags in the middle of this. Okay, so gameplay tags. Let's add a couple more tags in here. Do our data table. Let's do a new data table. Play tags data table. And we need a gameplay tag structure. There we go. Let's find our gameplay tags table. And let's add a couple new ones. So let's go with magic. Whoops, let's spell magic correctly. Let's go something like magic.fire, magic.ice, magic.healing, and let's go with melee. Let's do something like that for our data table. And we should be able to have this import automatically. If I can friggin'... Do I have to reclose it and open it? Yep, come on, use my stupid table here, please. Nope. Okay, why aren't we using my table? Oh, because you have to literally clear it and then tell it to use it again. Well, that's not very nice. Okay, but there's our gameplay tags. Yeah, if Heavy brings up, that's t.max FPS sets the cap. That's why I'm asking if you meant a cap or not. You also have the ability in the gameplay user settings to set the frame rate. But keep in mind, most of those are going to be overridden by these settings right here under the general settings. At the bottom right here, we have this. Smooth frame rate and used fixed frame rate. Depending on your settings in here, what determines whether you can cap it or if it uses smoothing. So this is something to keep in mind for the frame rate maxing. Here's how you can actually lock it directly in the engine if you want right here. So like if I hit play, I'm at 30. Because my project settings say fixed frame rate 30. And of course if I wanted, 60, I could change that like that. And I could hit, you can see we have 60, and then like Heavy brought up, gee, many criminy. You can do t.max FPS and change that, and that'll change to the value you set it to. However, if you have fixed frame rate turned on, it's going to be an issue. It's going to lock it to that. So if we have nothing turned on, we should be able to now adjust it to a different value. Okay, Wandered, I literally don't know what you're referring to. I am sorry. If you're referring to the material we were looking at in here, we're just pretty much just gonna ignore this for now until I can get feedback from Epic about something that might be missing. I have a feeling something's missing because I followed the example literally with what they have, but it's not working. Gameplay tags. So let's add a new variable and we'll call our tags. And this will be a gameplay tag container like that. And this will allow us to have tags assigned. So like for example, we can go with Magic Fire. And let's do another, let's see, gameplay tags 1. Let's duplicate this and we'll have tags 2. There we go. We'll make him, let's see, here's his tags. Let's clear all of his tags. Let's give him melee like that. Let's rename these so they make it easier. So we'll call him melee and we'll call this one magic for our testing purposes. And we'll set up a user interface widget. Play tags like that. Okay, so we've got our basic setup here. Let's see. Usernames of servers. If that's using the Steam setup, I cannot do that. I don't have any information regarding Steam, so unfortunately I could not. Other than that, chances are the usernames of servers are whatever you've set up, or whatever the player set up. That's multiplayer stuff. I have 1% experience in multiplayer. It's something I'll be working on next month. I won't be working on multiplayer right now. Talk a little more about source control, the program that gives ability for multiple users to make or level design or blueprint one level. Well, okay, so in terms of source control, allowing multiple people, one level, it's kind of true and not true. Have you used source control at all, Stefan, or do you understand what source control is? I guess would be a good start in regards to that. Going back to, here we go. Button. Text. My button. This variable. Construct. Close. My button. Get. Didn't I rename it? Like, oh, I guess I didn't compile it now. Oh, because I have 2 different ones. Oh, did I? I literally renamed. Okay. That's awesome. I renamed the text block to my button instead of the button to my button. That's intelligent. That's about all I can say on that one. Oops, I meant to do clicked, so that really doesn't help. Get all vectors of class. Ooh. But this is not the... Oh, it is the game... Oh, we can do that. Is that what it is? Because this is the normal tag, right? Sexy. The gameplay tag. Okay, I didn't know we could use gameplay tags in here. Oh, that's nice. Okay, see, learn something new every day. Variable. Oh, this is gonna be nice, actually. Let's do a print string and just give ourselves an output. Just so we can test to see if this works right now. Because all we're doing is testing at this point in time. Let's see, file new level, blank level, save everything, gameplay tags, map, load it up, we're good there. Let's drag a magic and a melee actor into our scene. Let's open up the level blueprint. Let's create a widget and add it to the viewport, because these are always fun to do over and over and over. Let's get the player controller. set the mouse cursor to show and set UI to UI mode. Because again, these things are always fun to do over and over. There we go. So let's see if we at least have the basic. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's working like I expected. Good, good. Let's see. Okay, so for Stefan, so this is what I use for source control. I use Git, which is a source control version. There's Git, there's Perforce, there's SVN, I think is the other one. There's a ton of different ones. But basically it's a way to keep track of files and changes in the files. So in this case, whenever I make changes to my example projects, I save them. Now, you can have, like, here's my example project right here. Let's go with something smarter like this one. You can have multiple people work in the same project. The problem is, for the most part, especially with Unreal Engine, because Unreal Engine is a binary system, you can't merge changes in the same file from two different people without losing things. So for example, if I'm in here playing in this map right here, let's say I'm in this map and I'm doing stuff and I'm working on my copy of that map, and you're on your computer and you're working on your copy of this same map, whoever basically saves it last pretty much is the one that overwrites everyone else. It's the basic way of putting it. If people are working on different things, so for example, I have an audio guy working on only audio, and he's making audio files or audio cues and stuff like that. And then you have a effects guy who's got his own particles directory, for example, and he's playing with particles. They can coexist fairly well. It's not much of an issue. You're not going to conflict with each other. And you can use your source control for that. Source tree is the version I use. GitHub is the website, the free service I use to do it. If you want multiple people working on a project on Unreal, for the most part, you're going to work on like a top hat approach is what they kind of call it, or a Lego approach, or a Hot Wheel approach. Basically, someone has to be in charge of certain things and making sure no one else is messing with them, if that makes sense. For example, I would say, I'm going to work on this map today, and that means everyone else should not touch this map, because any changes I make to this map, you're going to screw with if you use them. There are ways around this. There's things like Perforce, which can lock files and prevent other people from messing with them. For the most part, though, it's Unreal's a binary format. You can't really merge changes. It's more of just a play nice with everyone else on your project. That's what it is. But if you want the basics of the information, I would recommend going, honestly, to like GitHub. GitHub is completely free to use for public-facing projects. And you can just download something like SourceTree or GitKraken. There's a ton of free programs out there and free information. And everyone shares the same set of files, and everyone works on things nicely together, and it works really nicely when you're working together. If you want something private, but you don't want to, have your own stuff on your own server, Bitbucket is another option. They allow private repos is what they are. So it's just like GitHub, except you're allowed privately. So that way these are things that no one else can access without your permission. So that's another option. And these things are all really nicely set up for ease of use. Hopefully that's a basics. Like, here's how to learn how to do, like, SourceTree is the program I use for my doing stuff, and it's really simple. Like, for example, like, let's say, for example, you can see here everything I've done in the examples. This right here is saying, hey, I've done something but haven't committed it. So it says, hey, you've made a change to this file. So I could always go in here, type in I did something, and say I want that file to be saved, and then commit it, and then it will save that file for everyone else. Or I could go in, for example, because I made a mistake in this one, and discard the change, and it's going to get rid of anything I've done and go back to where we are. Yeah. So that's the basics of source control. There's a lot more information out there in terms of what you need, but the basics for Unreal Engine is it's a binary system. You have to play nicely with others. You can't really merge different commits to the same file at the same time. So Bob and Joe both should not be working in the same map at the same time, or you could run into problems. So yeah, play nice. I guess that's a way of thinking about it. There is version control built into the engine. I've never used it. I will have to use it here in a day or two, so I'm going to look into that. But it's basically the same thing. You can connect to a Git or Subversion, the SVN, or the Perforce, like I was mentioning. So like I could do Git, I could set up all my files, I could figure out where all my stuff's stored, all that other stuff like that. So these are something I have to look into here for one of the changes. And it looks like I'm definitely not going to be working on gameplay tags much today, which is fine. I'm actually I'm glad people are asking questions. I'm happy about that. I actually just want to slap a tag in here while I'm looking at that question there. There we go. Seriously? Is it not going to let me type in? Well, this is really annoying. Yeah, bear with me for half a second. This is a gameplay tag container, isn't it? Oh, it's a query. I've never used a query before. See, at some point I've got to learn this stuff, obviously. Because obviously this works for all expressions matching, which I want, but I have no expressions in here. Oh, I don't want expressions. I want tags. Okay, yeah, I want tags. This is where my issue came from. Melee like that. Okay, that was me pushing the wrong button. Okay, so we obviously still have an issue there. I'll figure that one out. Because technically, this should get all the actors with a subclass of actor with melee, and technically one of these has melee in it. Right here. So this should be working. But it's not, so we'll figure that out. Let's see. If I need free grass that looks good, take a look at Advanced Cinematic Grass Blueprint. I will do that. Git plus source tree is the way to go from Wander. I agree with that one. I love source tree. It's really simple to use once you get used to it. Alex, I'm having so many blueprint communication problems. Every time I literally attempt to access a node from another blueprint, I always get an annoying access none errors. What do you do? Not to be mean, but I basically make sure I set everything up right, and I understand blueprint communication fully. And that's not meant to be mean, that's meant just to illustrate the reason you get an access none error is because blueprint communication is just not simply fully understood yet. Which is fine. That's not a problem. That blueprint communications is that big sticking point for a lot of people. So I think what we need to figure out is, do you have an example of when you have an access none that we could look at and then maybe try to figure out where the problem comes in? And goodbye, Glitch. Have a good day. Yeah, so it sounds like it's a simple issue of not fully understanding communication yet. So if you have a screenshot or you have an example I could try to recreate, or something you're doing so we could try to help you out, we'll be more than happy to, because it sounds like there's a couple people in chat as well. Wandered brings up a good point. Using isValid nodes to check is a good way, but if you get an access none, it's still not going to help fix the problem. But maybe you're trying to access it when it's not spawned or used yet, or created, or accessible, or stupid order of operations, when the game starts up, all those fun things. Well, see, the most basic example I can tell you is trying to access a variable from another blueprint. Well, I mean, that's not a problem. Like here, for example, I have two blueprints here. One called Magic, one called Melee. I have both of them in this world. I will go into my Melee one. I'm going to get all actors, and this is not the smartest way of doing this, but I'm going to show you what I would do. Get all actors of class. I'm in the Melee one, so I want to grab all of my Magic ones. I want to grab the first one I find, and I'm going to talk to him. So let's grab the Magic one. Let's give a new variable called Magic var, and we'll make it text so we know we grabbed the correct one, and we'll make it this is the Magic dude, Magic blueprint. So we have a variable in here called Magic var. In here, I could do get a Magic var like this, and we'll go print string, and we will output the Magic var. So now we should see when this starts up, this is the Magic BP. So I mean, that right there is a really simple blueprint communication, accessing one variable from another. I mean, I just did it. That's a basic example of how to do it right there. To put into words what I did, I have two blueprints out here in the world. They exist, so I know I have valid data I can get from them. One's my Melee, one's my Magic. Inside my Magic, I have a variable called Magic var, and it has a value of this is the Magic BP. Inside of my Melee one, when it starts, I say, yo, world, give me all your actors that are of this class. And in this case, I asked for that one, this blueprint right here. I asked for anything that exists that's created from this blueprint. And we know from here, our world outliner shows one, and we see it right here. So we know this exists when he asked for it. He says, okay, out of all of them, give me the first one. That's our get 0. Says, okay, now grab the Magic variable from that and print it out to our string. So that's what we did right there. Okay, so let's see, for Alex, does get actors from class get variables, or is it the same thing? No, actors from class doesn't get a variable. Actors from class literally does what it says. It gets all the actors of this class. That's it. So it's going to give me back any actors. So in this case, this one right here, of the class I asked for, which is my blueprint gameplay Magic. It gives me this actual actor right here. Whether it's got a variable in it, whether it's visible or hidden, none of those things matter for what this node right here does. It's simply going to give me a list of any actors currently in our world when this is run that match the class type. Whether or not the variable is inside of it or not is completely different. So in this case, getting the actor, so if we were to, for example, this is Magic, let me duplicate him 4 times. Now let me, actually, this is a really good, hopefully this is a better way of showing this. Let me grab my Magic class, let me edit it, let me make this variable public and editable. So let me show you a much better way of doing this. So this is blueprint 1, and this is not blueprint 1, and this is Joe, and Curly went out. So we have 4 different blueprints in our world, each with 4 different values inside this variable. If we go into here, and let's pause this right here, and we run our code, and we go look at our code for get all actors return back 4 different things. So in this case, you can see it returns back the gameplay tag Magic 98, 2, 3, and 4. We get back these 4 items right here, these 4 items in here. Now, every single one of these items has a completely different Magic variable inside of it. So the first one we're talking to has this value inside of it. This is blueprint 1. But if, for example, I wanted someone else, I could say grab me the second one from this list, and you'll see its output is this is Joe. So this is the basics of blueprint communication. So in your question here, well, you're trying to get a variable from one blueprint to another, not an actor. It doesn't have to be an actor. It's what is your blueprint primary class. You want to get a variable from your main character to a widget. Okay, simple enough. Are you trying to get it from the main character to the widget, or are you trying to get your widget to ask the main character? Which way is your direction? And keep in mind your literal statement from before was any type of blueprint to blueprint. So which is why I made a literal, really simple blueprint to blueprint. But the keys here to note is we got something specific. This is a specific actor somewhere in our world, and we talk to it to get our variable. So we need to define your issue. Now you brought up main character to a widget. So this is not hard at all. This is something that we do commonly. So I should not have done that in here. I should have done it in the playground. So the second question, because we need to define everything, because we need specific instances or specific copies of things. Your widget. Where's your widget created? Who creates and owns your widget when it's created? That's the second important question at this point, once we have the flow down. Screw it, we'll just do it in your folder, because why not? Car to widgets. Good night, Igor. And I'm just doing some prep work right now while we set this up. Yeah. So what was that one? That was carrot to widget, right? Carrot, and they called it chat to widget. Let's copy here. Let's call that car to widget, shall we? Okay, so here's my car. Make a new level. Let's save the current level, and this is our car to widget map. Okay, so here's our character widget map, and all I'm doing is prep work right now. You don't even have to worry about any of this stuff, but I will explain it just for why I need it. Car character. Okay, so car mode. Let's set our car mode. I'm making sure I have my proper pawn set up is what I'm doing right now, to make sure that when we spawn in our character, we are spawning in the proper character. So that way I know I'm chatting with the correct thing. Okay, so we have our character. Okay, so yeah. Well, hopefully you know what I'm getting to. Hopefully it makes a little bit of sense. So if I was going to do what you're going to do, there's a couple ways of doing it. Assuming I can stop coughing and almost dying. You've defined your direction. I need to communicate from the character to the widget. So that's good. Now we need to define what is our character and what is our widget. Well, we have our character here, not an issue. Let's define our widget in this case. So widget blueprint, car widget. So now we have our widget defined. So in theory, we've got those defined, so we're good there. I've technically created the widget. The widget I created is called the player. I technically never created it. The widget I created is called the player settings, and I dragged the widget into the player menu, which will spawn to the viewport. Okay, cool. How did the player menu get spawned? You've got to eventually start, identifying things in here. So we'll go with we'll go with player UI. Let's call this better. So this is car player UI, and this is car, and you've said settings. So we'll go with something like that. We have our player UI and we have our settings. And I don't know, our settings can consist of some stupid stuff like this. Actually, it shouldn't be in a canvas panel. Let's put it in just for safety's sake here. Button, text, button, because I have no concept of making things look awesome. But we'll go with that. Okay, and then we'll go to our player UI right here. Hello, Nicholas, and Starscraft. I'm glad you guys found some use for my stuff. That is awesome. What do we call that one? We call it car settings, right? Widget blueprint car settings. Here we go. So did you do something basically like this, where you have a player UI and then you have a settings widget you added to it? Something like this? I think this is what you're aiming for. So you have like your player menu is what you called it. So I called mine player UI, and then you have a player settings, which you dragged the widget into the player menu. So something like this. Obviously it doesn't look as good, but I think this is what you're trying to say you're at right now. Okay, good. And now you're trying to talk to this somehow, right? You're trying to tell this setting menu something. So there's a couple things that we have an issue with here. So we're in a good spot right now. We've defined a couple different things. We've defined our main widget. We've defined what we've done to it. We've added another widget, and we've defined our character who we want to talk to it. So we're good there. We need a couple things. If you noticed in that other example I gave you, we grabbed all of our actors in the scene, which gave us a reference to them, and then we did something to it. So our biggest issue here now is, where's our reference? How does our character know even about our user interface in the first place? It needs to keep a reference to it somehow, or it needs to get a reference to it. And the proper place to do it is where you mentioned you created a widget, you did the create widget node, and you added to the viewport. Where do you do that? I don't know. Let's say you did it in your player, which is the easiest way to do it. On my begin play, I'm simply going to do like you mentioned, properly spell create widget, hopefully one of these times. There we go. And add it to the viewport. So in this case, it was our player UI, right? Here we go. So if we did this and we hit play, we should have our player UI and then our little settings menu right here. So, I mean, that works. We're good. The problem is, at no point did we ever save a reference to our actual UI. Player's event construct. You probably shouldn't put UI on the construct. You should almost never put UI stuff. UI is meant for the game only. I would do it in the begin play on the event graph. Try not to create widgets in the construction script. The construction script runs in the editor, and you probably shouldn't do widgets in there. Just as an FYI. Just move it over to your begin play. But that's fine. If you have it in your construct, you have it in your player, which is at least a good place to have it. We need to do this. We need to open this up, and we need to promote this to a variable. Like this. And hopefully stop, and then click thing up properly. There we go. And we'll call this one our player UI reference. So now we have a reference to our player UI. Yeah, let me answer that question right there. Is there a difference between begin, play, and construct? Well, okay. Two things. Technically, there's two different constructs. Are we talking about the event construct in a widget blueprint? Or are we talking about the construction script inside of an actor, a blueprint? This one, the construction script. Those are two different things. That's just an honest question on that one. If we're talking about the event construct, then that's only for the widget, and that's fine. If we're talking about our character, yes, this construction script and this event graph are two completely different things. Okay, so if we're talking about begin, play, and the construction script, yes. Here, this is the easiest way of doing this. Spawn act. Here, let's just do this. Oh, I can't spawn actors from the construction script. Dagnabbit. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to show this. Okay. So let's do this. Yeah, we'll make it super simple here. Blah. We'll take a side tangent to construction script town, and then we'll come right back. So here is a static mesh, right here, and I've got nothing in here for my static mesh. So if I take this item and I put it in here, we have nothing being shown on our screen. We're good. We'll go into our event graph. We'll say, okay, Mr. Static Mesh, I want to set you to something. So we're going to set our static mesh, and we're going to set it to a cube. We'll go ahead and save this. We'll run this, and now you'll notice we have a cube. We don't have a cube here. We have a cube here. When this blueprint starts up, the begin play fires off, and we're changing our blank static mesh into a cube. We're good. Now the construction script, however, let's copy the same code and put it in the construction script. Literally the same code, but it's in the construction script. We'll compile it. You'll notice what happened. It ran. We'll go back to here and look. We have a cube in our viewport. The construction script runs at editor time. It runs in the editor. It doesn't always... It runs in the editor and when the game starts. So it runs in the editor like now. So you can see we actually have a cube here. And then if we hit play, it actually runs in here. So we'll actually get it twice. We'll actually technically set the cube twice. I can show you that by... Let's change this to a sphere here. You see we have the sphere. We'll hit play. You'll see it's a cube. Because what's happening when you hit play... let's go to here and we'll hit play. You'll notice that happens. So that's something to keep in mind. The construction script is primarily meant for editor use. That's its primary use. You want to do something in the editor, you put it in the construction script. You want to do something in the game, you do it on begin play. So yes, there is a definite difference. The biggest one being, there's only certain things you can do. So for example, if I type spawn actor, I can't spawn an actor in the construction script. If I go to here though, and I type in spawn actor, I can spawn an actor once the game's actually started. So that's a big difference. Hopefully that was enough of a divergence. But it doesn't really matter. I would recommend, for something like this, the UI, I would recommend put it in the begin play. Because technically if you put it in the construction script, nothing's going to happen. You're not actually attaching it to anything or doing anything like that. Okay, so going back to our stuff that we were working on. Your biggest difference between my code and your code was you didn't have this. You were not storing a reference to your player UI. So that's a big difference there. Doing this allows us to now keep track of this widget that we've created and put on our screen. So later on, for example, I could always grab my player UI and then get whatever I want. I could get any of the variables, any of the widgets, any of the sub-widgets, anything. So in our player UI, for example, if we were to add a new variable called, I don't know, something, dark side, like that, now that I have a reference to it, I could get something, like that, because I have a reference. So in your case, if you need to communicate, for example, with our sub-widget here, it's a sub-widget basically, our character settings. Let's say I wanted to change this text block to something else. Couple things we need to make sure. Anytime you want to talk to something, it needs to be a variable. Not talk to something, sorry. Anytime you need to change something, it needs to be a variable. If that makes sense. By default, most of your widgets are not going to be variables. So in this case, if we go to our text block and we go into our graph, let's say I wanted to change my text block to something else, I can't. It's not a variable. By default, it's not going to be. I have to tell it it's a variable, and let's name it to something better like settings text. And then once I compile and save, now I actually have a variable inside my settings I want to change. I can actually change it now. So now that that exists, I can go backwards down the chain and talk to things. But again, we need to make sure we have variables in every single spot. So in this case, we know that our settings text is a variable. We know we could change this if we can get a hold of it. Now we need to go back to our player user interface, where our settings, our little widget we put in, make sure this is accessible. And if we look, you'll see it's got a really funky name and it's got is variable. Let's change that. Let's call it our settings menu. And it's now a variable. We'll compile and save, go back to the graph, and yes, it's called settings menu. So we're good there. Now we can go back to our character and we could, for example, get the settings menu. When we do this, we now have access to this entire blueprint. we want our text block inside of our settings menu. So we grab our settings menu, and then we grab our settings text out of our settings menu, and then we can set the text on that. So for example, now here, let's go ahead and just grab this whole thing, try to move it into the proper spot if it would cooperate, like this. And let's tell it it's something else. So I changed the text in here. We'll go ahead and hit play, and you'll notice it says, I changed the text in here. So the biggest thing with Blueprint communication is keeping references to stuff that you want to change. And it's literally generic stuff, thing, whatever, whatchamacallit, who's you dig, whatever you want to call it. You need to be able to somehow get a hold of it when you want to talk to it. So that's why in this case, by storing our user interface, after we've created it, we can now talk to our user interface. And then we just work down the chain. We go, okay, user interface, I want to talk to the settings menu. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you this settings menu right here that I created. You're like, cool. Then you're like, okay, Mr. Settings menu, I want to talk to the settings text. So we'll open up our settings menu and we'll go, okay, well, I do have a settings text. It's right here. What do you want to do with that? And you're like, okay, now I want to set the text on it. And that allows you to work down your chain, as you can see there. But without this one, without our first one, there's no way you could do anything else. And if you noticed also, if we didn't make this a variable, we wouldn't have been able to do that one either. And like Switch is bringing up, it's good to use prefixed. It's good to use a proper naming etiquette. In my case, I am not using proper naming etiquette just because this is an example. But for example, if it's a text, you could always prefix it with T. So for example, if I was to look at this variable, I would know this is a text. Or if it was started with a B, I could know it was a button. Or if I knew it was a TB, I could know it was a text block. And various things like that. So you name things appropriately is what he's getting at. Which is, yes, a good point. Some form of naming standard would be good. But as this is just an example, I just randomly throw names out to get this. You'll actually notice that this broke apart too, because I renamed the variable. Okay, so one last question. I noticed you had to set the player reference before you did anything with that. How come you had to set it when communicating? Now, do you mean this one right here, the player UI reference? I'm assuming this is what you mean. I really wish chat was quicker, but if let's assume that you're talking about why I had to set the player reference before I did anything, and why I had to call the player reference right here. So let's unhook these, and let's unhook this, and let's do this right here. And let's say we ran, well, stuff's gonna stop. Well, this needs to be hooked back up. Okay, so yeah, there we go. I gotta disconnect everything, obviously. Okay, so let's say we ran this code. This is what we're gonna get. So it looks the same, which is good. Functionally, it's not, though. This creates a widget. All it's doing is basically, let's say you had a piece of paper. Let's say you had a stack of papers. You had a notebook, for example. And in that notebook on the first page, you went ahead and you wrote, this is my first page. So now your first page has something on it. You've created something with it. And then you took that piece of paper and you put that piece of paper on your wall in your room. So we've done that right here. We've created something and put it on the wall. Now, let's say later during the day, someone wants to see this picture and you go, oh, I created the best picture in the world. Why don't you go look at it? Their answer is going to be, well, where is it at? What is this picture that you're talking about? Now, if you never remembered where that picture was, you can't tell them where to go. You can't tell them what it looks like. You can't tell them anything about it. You forgot. You literally just took a piece of paper, stuck it to the wall, and then walked away and forgot about it. By setting the reference to it, our brain now keeps track of where it's at. So later on, when someone says, okay, so where's this picture at? You can go, oh, that's right, I remember where that picture is. Here's that picture. Oh, and that picture itself, it's got this really cool settings picture on it. And part of that settings picture is this really cool word that I changed into something else. Because you remember it and everything about it. That's what our references are for. That's what storing our references are for. Without storing them, we don't keep track of it. Without keeping track of it, we don't know anything. So in terms of a good reason why we have to do this, let's say we did this right here. We took your code, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to literally copy and paste this. And we're going to do this like this. Now let's say we did this. How many widgets did I create and put on my screen? 2. I created one, added it, created one, added it. This does not take the original one and just simply move it. It creates a brand new one. 1 piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper. Put it on the wall, put it on the wall. Now in this case, I want to talk to the first one. How do I know which one is the first one? I have 2 of them on the screen. How am I supposed to know which one's the first one? That's why we store the references. That's why if we added a reference here, for example, we would know this is the first one. And then over here, I could always save this one as the second one. Now I have references to both of them. Now I could say talk to the second one or talk to the first one. So that's why we have our references. And that's the biggest hang up on communication. It's understanding that you have to talk to something specifically, and unless you keep track of it, it's really hard to get a hold of it later. That's why most things when you create, for example, you spawn an actor, the output is going to be whatever you created. It's a reference to whatever you created. When we create a widget, we get a reference to whatever we created. So, spawn emitter at location. We created an emitter somewhere. Now we have a reference to it. We need these things because, for example, I want to destroy my emitter later. I need to know which one to destroy. I want to get rid of this actor. I need to know which actor to destroy. Same thing with the widget. I want to destroy this widget, talk to something part of it. I need to know which one. That's why when you run into something like this, play sound 2D, and then we have a play sound location, and then we have spawn sound 2D. We have these nodes right here. You'll notice the primary difference is the output. This one, like it says, it's for cosmetic non-gameplay actions, fire and forget. This will literally play a sound, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can never go back and stop that sound once it started, because we have no idea, any idea what the sound is. Same with this one, no idea what the sound is. But that's why they have the spawn version, which gives us this one. This one we could always stop if we need to. These ones just play and there's nothing we can do about it. So that's why we have references on some things and some things we don't have references. And that's why you do the appropriate ones. So for example, you pick up a coin. It's a, Super Mario ding sound or whatever. Yeah, play the sound. We don't care about it. If this is your music in your game, you probably want to keep track of it. So we could stop it, pause it, speed it up, turn the volume up and down, stuff like that. It's all relative. Hopefully this giant mess of stuff here helped a little bit there, Alex. If you still get confused, try to break it down to the basic parts. That's the best way to try to figure out a problem in Blueprints. Or a common method is what people refer to as the rubber ducky method, which is basically talking to yourself or something or someone else out loud so you can understand the problem. So in this case, it would be, well, I created my widget and I put my widget on the screen. Now I need to talk to that widget and do something. And then if you think to yourself, okay, so who's going to talk to the widget? My character. Okay, cool. I know where my character is. And now I need to talk to the widget. Okay, what widget is this? And then if you think about it, what widget is this? I created 5 widgets. Which one do I need to talk to? Oh, crap. I don't know which widget I need to talk to. I need to keep track of the widget. That's my problem. And then you can think about it like that. So in your case of your widget communication, you think to yourself, okay, I have this on my screen. I want to change that. Where is that at? Okay, that's in here. Is it a variable I can change? Okay, cool. It's a variable. Okay, who owns that? Well, my player does, because I put it inside of here, my player UI. Okay, well, is my settings menu a variable? Okay, cool. It's a variable. So I need to talk to my player UI to get my settings menu. Okay, who created my player UI? Well, my character did. Okay, my character created it. Oh, we stored a variable to it. Now we can just simply talk to our player UI, talk to our settings menu, talk to the text, and set our text. Just you gotta break things down. Once you do it enough, you'll start talking to yourself when you're doing this stuff, and you'll think about, oh, I need to do this and this and this to communicate with myself. And let's see, Switch. You made a crazy resolution and height, so it makes sense now. Cool. I'm hoping that helps. Let's see, the God gifts. How do I connect your vertical health bar with the player's health? Let's see, and yeah, God gifts. Oh, cool. Wow, Switch, that looks tremendously better. I hope you're happy with that result. I like that. That looks awesome. That looks a lot better. I'm gonna grab that screenshot and use that for later. I like that. I might actually I might do that as a tip video if you don't mind. I try to do just the tip videos. They're small little things. I like this. If you don't mind, I might use this concept that you have for the text as a, hey, if you need to use a text renderer but it's not smooth enough, here's how you could do it better. So yeah, if you don't have a problem with that, I'd like to do just a little tip video on how to make it better, like you showed here, because I think that looks fantastic. Let's see. So the God's Gifts is asking about connecting his vertical health bar with the player's health. And the problem is, though, he's making it in C++. I wish I could give you a direct answer in C++, but I don't use C++. I can show you how to have your vertical health bar connected to the health in widgets, in UMG widgets, which I'm assuming you're using. I can show you how to communicate using blueprint communication. Basically, every time your health goes down, you tell the widget to change. I can show you that, but in terms of actual hooking it up in C++, I don't have that ability. If you want the vertical health bar to have a look of fluid, then that would be a material effect, is what it would be. I actually saw the coolest effect. If anyone would like to steal it, I would highly recommend going through here. The content examples comes with Unreal Engine 4. And you can download this from the Learn tab, content examples, and there's a ton of stuff in there for examples. Well, no, see, that's the thing, God's Gift. You'll make a progress bar, and then you'll just simply use a material on it to make it look like blood or water. Let me show you kind of what I'm talking about here. I was going through this I was going through the blueprint network replication stuff, if I can figure out where it's at. And they have this really cool Pac-Man ghost effect here, this little ghost character. And if you look at his bottom half, you have this kind of like this really cool grid effect going up, like a flowing effect. And if we pulled up the ghost, and we grabbed the ghost, and we grabbed his material, you'll find up here, this is basically where it creates it at. Let's preview this one, and we'll pull this out. So you have this effect right here. This one's probably better to preview. Yeah, this one's the non-muted one. So you have this effect right here. It's basically using a panner to move a texture up to simulate kind of like this little grid effect. But then you use some other math in here, and you get this really cool little effect. That should start. Why is it not showing in my preview? Seriously? Whoops. Can we stop previewing? There we go. You get this really cool little effect where you kind of like have this little. Let's make this bigger because it looks really cool. Yeah, you get this little, I don't know, like a pixelated water vapor effect is almost like I'd say. But you could use something like this with fluid for blood or water. This is just simply using a texture, which you can see right here, just a noise texture. But if this was like a water effect or something that was more higher detailed, it looked like water or blood, you'd use the same type of effect. You'd simply have it look like it's blood or water, and it's a material. This is a material that's simply applied to your progress bar, and it looks like it's animated, and you get this little effect. Is how it would work. So, like for example, if we were to like I don't really want to put this in here. Let's see if I can do this without saving. So like for example, a blueprint, and then we did a progress bar like this, and we made our progress bar vertical, bottom to top like this. You have the ability to put in a, where's it at? It's always, here we go, style. You can put a fill image in here, material. So you could have something like that, especially if it was in the right domain, which this one's not, and it needs to recompile. Come on, recompile. You can do it. It may not even work. Yeah, see? So we'd have to change things, and yeah, but basically you could, let's see, change our object radius to a fixed value of something like 5. Let's see if that works. Yeah, see, keep in mind, I'm just stealing stuff right now, trying to make it work. But you could take that same effect and put it on there to do it. But that's what to accomplish your effect, you're basically going to create a, of course, after I closed everything, you're going to create a user interface material. So you just create a new material, change it to user interface, and that'll allow you to put that material onto like a progress bar, and then you have it look like it's blood, and you can have it animated and have all that stuff. It's really cool. I did, now if you need the basics of hooking up health bars and things like that, they're really simple. Hopefully, if you get stuck on that one, it's not too much of an issue. It's not that hard to do. You just drive a value. Progress bar 0 to 1. Figure out how much health they have left in a percent, and just give it to the health bar. But yeah, a material effect is what you're looking for. Some people like to use C++. I have no problem with that. I plan on learning more C++ and Unreal at one point. Some people aren't comfortable with visual scripting languages, and there's no problem with that. I fully support people using whatever gets the job done. Blueprints or C++. Josem, have you used other game engines before? Yes, I previously worked for a couple years in Unity before I switched to Unreal Engine. Oh, well then there you go. If you didn't know how to connect the animation with the material, it's not that hard. Just make a user interface material and set it up on there. Panner. Chances are you're going to want to use something like a panner or a sine node to give yourself that little effect on your material. But that the content examples, if no one's ever seen that or played with that before, the content examples has a ton of fun, reusable stuff to steal legitimately. There's some fantastic examples in the content examples. That Pac-Man was one material I really like, actually. I think I might steal that because it seems like you could use it for like a little bubbling effect. Like think of like a beaker or something that's bubbling and things like that. Yeah. So how long have I been streaming for? Yeah, I've been at 2 hours at this point. I'm gonna have to start working on this stuff Wednesday. I think I managed to hit all the questions. I'm gonna steal. Let me put this in here before I forget it again. Let's see. Just the tip. Material. Let's see. Font. Making text render fonts smoother. Yeah, I'm grabbing that for now because I thought that was a fantastic idea. It's a small little thing, but obviously some people have questions about them. And the questions, if we can find a way to get them working, like Svitch managed to find a working method for him. If we can show people how to do it easily, I think that's a fantastic thing. I'm stealing the image right now from chat. Here we go. Grab the image. I'll put that into my document. Yep, I think I might do that tip today, actually. I kind of like that. That was a pretty cool one. Okay, so back to chat. I think everyone's having a lively discussion about C++ and blueprints, which are always end horribly, in my opinion. But everyone, to each their own. I wish everyone to use whatever they want. Okay, it looks like I managed to finish up the basics here. I appreciate everyone for hanging out. Hopefully the people who had questions that I could help out did get them. I did get some stuff added to my list. We didn't get too much done today. Unfortunately, we ran into a material issue, so I'm going to have to ask Epic if they know why they're not working. Wednesday's stream, more than likely, I'm going to, obviously not more than likely, but I need to keep working on the 415 examples. More than likely, 415 Preview 4 will come out this week. That's their plan, which means 415 Final will be next week or very shortly after. And I have about 20 videos I need to get done before then. So I'm definitely going to be heads down on that stuff. I'm thinking at this point, if we go through our list here, there's not many things that I have examples for. So I'm thinking maybe I will do these off stream because as we saw today, these were kind of boring. Not really much I could show. I'm thinking maybe we'll do these off stream and then try to stick to the more fun stuff on the stream, like I was doing the AI. More than likely, if time permits, and I have time today and tomorrow, which more than likely I will tomorrow, I'll look into the Ansel plugin and see if we can do just a quick little informational video or session on how to use the Ansel plugin inside of Unreal Engine. Because that should be pretty simple to show, so I think I want to do that. And I'm going to do the tip video later today. So, next time I stream is Wednesday. It'll be 2 days from now. It'll be roughly the same time I streamed today. 10 o'clock Pacific. That is 2 hours before now. Stefan, I will check out that I will check out the grass blueprint, not the glass blueprint. I will go ahead and check that out. If you want to put in a request for something I can try to help you with, try to catch me on the stream. It's easiest because I'll let you know instantly if I can. And if I can't, I can put it on my list or just let you know I can't. If it's something else, feel free to add it to the blueprint list I have on the screen. This is linked on the YouTube and the About channel. My email is on the About channel, so feel free to try to request something specific there if you need some help. I try to help as much as I can in email, but sometimes it's difficult, especially if it's a bigger request. But I'll be more than happy to try to respond to everything I can. You can comment on any of the videos in the YouTube channel. I'm on Twitch, I'm on Beam, I'm on Twitter, YouTube, obviously, that's where most people are coming from now. I appreciate all the people chatting and giving me ideas and stuff to work on today. I do agree, even though maybe people haven't said it, but I do agree that doing this 415 stuff on stream is definitely not the most enjoyable stuff for people who are hanging out. So I'm going to try to find something more enjoyable for next on Wednesday. And with that, I'm going to go and wrap this up. Everyone else have a good rest of their day. The stream is going to basically die for about 30 seconds before I kill it, so I don't just disappear. I did see a couple questions in chat itself, like linking to my Twitch, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that out when I disappear. So everyone have a good rest of their day on the stream.